Well, welcome back to PedalBox, where reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. I've been away for quite a few episodes now, as Aid's been sort of doing other bits and pieces while I've been, unfortunately, back in Wales, kind of stuck. But I'm here now, and we're going to have a crack at finally finishing off the brake system. Now, we've already plumbed everything. I think hydraulically, everything's good to go. All we need to do is put some fluid in it. We've been building up to this for quite a while. Obviously, our brake system's been a sort of ongoing project for pretty much the whole duration we've been building the car. And most recently, we tried and failed to wire up the sensor connectors for our brake fluid level sensors in the reservoirs. Now, either the crimp terminals that we have or the crimp tool that we have are garbage. So we've been on the internet and we've bought some nice weatherproof sealed connectors that we're going to crimp proper terminals onto and make these fully removable. The idea is just that if we ever have to remove them, obviously they may well have brake fluid on them, so it'd be nice to be able to get them completely out of the car rather than risk them dropping brake fluid onto paint or anything else in here. Now, as well as that, we're going to hopefully test our finished hydraulic system. As far as we know, as far as we remember at least, all of our brake lines are now done. We're plumbed end to end, all the way from both cylinders to all four brake calipers, so we think that is all good, and that means we can finally put brake fluid in the system, which is actually fairly important now, not just because one day we'll need brakes, and brake fluid's an important part of that, but because, as you can see here, the car is quite high up. I've been underneath it in the footwell again, having a look at those brake and clutch pedal sensors that we hate so much and that you're so sick of hearing about. But we realized that we actually can't set up the, we need these little plungers to sort of, little like arms to connect the pedals to the sensors. And we can't actually like make sure that they work until we know the pedal's range of motion, and the range of motion is affected by the hydraulic side. So we're going to get the hydraulics filled up, we're going to get brake fluid in there, we're going to see how far the pedal moves, and then we can finally finish off those bloody switches that have been giving us so much hassle for so many years. So, without further ado, let's get these off, get them connected up, get our terminals crimped on, get the fluid in, and see if all of this stuff works. I've done most of our crimps now, so we've got pin terminals crimped onto the senders on the reservoirs, and we've got receiver terminals on the car end. Obviously, these aren't fully done yet. You can see a missing terminal there, but they just mate together like that. Obviously, there's the whole sort of connector housing that you put around these, which is what these little silicon sealing boots are for. But internally, that's all that's happening, right? You've got this little terminal that we've pressed down onto the wire to make the connection, and this is all looking pretty much ready to go. I've had to do a little bit of trickery. That wire's really run away from me. Where did that go? So I've had to do a little bit of trickery here. Because these run in parallel, so that either switch closing will complete the circuit and turn the light on. I've had to run a little jumper back off of this terminal. This is going to go onto another connector. So we've got one connector for each of our reservoirs, so that we've got everything wired up. And obviously we're going to have to do the same for the ground side. So we're going to wire a little ground on somewhere. I think we've already got one, but I've lost track of it. Then we're going to sort of jumper back out of the terminals. So you can now pop our terminal into the back of the connector, taking a bit of force, so that's now clipped into place. There's a little plastic tang in there that bites onto the terminal, and you probably won't see it on the camera, but I can see through here that we've got the metal of our terminal inside the housing there, and that's good and secure. And now obviously once we've done the other side for our switch, we'll have one complete sensor unit ready to go. We're all done. All of our connectors are crimped on. We've got a lead coming off the car here that tees off for the second sensor, and this obviously just clips on there. And now, for very obvious reasons, I'm just going to cut this off, because actually we need to fill the hydraulic system, and to do that we're going to use our pressure bleeder. Now, the only way we can use the pressure bleeder is by blowing through the lid of our reservoir here, and unfortunately I can't take this out to get our pressure feed on here. So goodbye to one of our connectors. Unfortunately, these ones are the ones that are trickier to de-pin, so I think that one's just going to have to go in the bin now. Can't really reuse it, but we've got plenty of them, so it's fine. We pressurized the system, started blowing fluid through it, everything seemed happy, and then tons of it fell out of the front driver side caliper, which was weird, because we'd done this, because we did up this bleed nipple. Turns out we have made a mistake. When you pressurize a brake system and start pushing fluid through it, like actually tighten up the fittings and the hoses, because our brake hose onto the caliper was completely loose and it just dumped a whole bunch. So while we're in here, we've got it off. We may as well at least check that the copper washers are good, and at a glance, they seem not to be totally honest. So we'll get some fresh washers on there and hopefully seal it back up and carry on. I'm going to be totally honest. We're not having a great day with this so far. We've leaked a whole bunch of brake fluid out of a whole bunch of different fittings, and much like the one on the caliper here, it's actually kind of our own fault. They were all loose. We've been modifying the system, replacing bits and pieces here so many times over so many years that we just kind of forgot to ever go through the whole thing and tighten everything up fully. So, as I've already said, the flexi hose onto the caliper was loose. The 45-degree adapter at the edge of the wheel well, where we've got our flexi hose and the hard line into the car, both sides of that were loose. And the T-piece, where the one line coming in from the master cylinder that splits off left and right, was also loose. The left and right were tight, but the in from the master cylinder was loose. So we leaked a bunch of fluid out, which is fine, you know, we're idiots, whatever. We tightened it all back up, repressurized the system, and then it leaked out of basically every cheap brass fitting we have on here. Now, this isn't like proper, really, really nasty Wish.com fittings. Like I can't remember where exactly we got these from, but they're not like that bad, but they are relatively cheap. But this does mean we've kind of lost faith in pretty much all of the fittings ever on the car. We've gone back around, we've tightened everything up as near as we can tell. Nothing seems to be stripped, like everything still has like torque load on it, but nothing, you know, none of them seem to be sealing up. So we have slightly lost confidence in these things. We are going to pull them all out, replace all of them, and get going. But that has kind of taken the wind out of our sails for today. So it's now been 24 hours since that last shot, and we've actually had to rework a fair bit of the front brake plumbing, but I think we're actually all good now. We've pressurized it and we can't hear any air hissing out, which is quite nice. It turns out a big part of our problem was confusion between 3/8 fittings and M10 fittings. Now, these are not labelled on them anywhere what size they are. When you order them, they just come in a little unlabelled baggie. So we had them all kind of in a box in the garage. We've been like pulling bits out here and there, putting everything together and just kind of believing everything would be okay. It doesn't help, it kind of adds to the confusion, that different parts of the front brake system are just naturally different sizes. The master cylinders have 3/8 threads on them, fittings on them. The inline, like pressure maintaining valves, non-return valves that we've got are M10. And then I can't remember what the Ven Hill like flexi hoses out to the arms are, but like there's a couple of different sizes in there. And I think it's caused us to get confused because we ended up using an M10 T. So we've got the master cylinder comes in the bottom here, or in the back as it were, and then it runs off to both sides. We use an M10 one and we had 3/8 fittings in. And the annoying thing is 3/8 fittings will thread into an M10 receiver like that. They'll be a little bit sloppy, but you kind of go, oh, well, you know, once it's tight, everything's fine. The problem is they'll never actually properly seal, which isn't a huge surprise, like now that we've worked out that's what was happening, but it did cause us no end of confusion. So yeah, we've replaced our T, which was an M10 one, with a 3/8 one, because we had all 3/8 fittings going into it. And as far as I can tell, we're now leak-free. So we've already bled out the passenger side. As I've already said, that's the longer run, and that one seemed okay. So now we're going to pressurize the system again and try and bleed all of the air out of the driver's side here and get this one done. So I think Aid's got the pressure line on behind me. Just going to crack our valve. Hopefully, I did this up tight, didn't I? Lots of air coming through. And now I've got brake fluid dripping. So yeah, I think that's good. And now in theory, if Aid reaches a hand inside the cabin and tries to press the brake pedal, it'll feel like crap because it's on like a pivot bar, so it's actuating 2 cylinders. But at least the right-hand side of it, where it's driving the front brakes, should feel firm now. Can you confirm, Aid?
There is some resistance.
Okay, there is an amount of resistance on the right-hand side cylinder, so that's fairly promising. It means if there is a leak, it's probably not too horrendous. I can see some brake fluid on this. Oh no, is that brake fluid or is that power steering fluid? Because one of our fittings has come undone. This is one of the annoying things. This corner is very, very busy. So we're going to get back into there, clean this up a bit, pressurize it again, and double check that we haven't got any leaks. But I think we have now got brake fluid everywhere it's meant to be, just maybe a few other places as well. Well, after all our success at the front, we thought we'd try and replicate that at the back of the car. So we pressurized the rear reservoir and listened for hisses. And unfortunately, it turns out air was pissing out more or less everywhere. We'd made a similar mistake back there to what we had in the front of the car, kind of the opposite way around though. So the rear end of the brake system was meant to be 3/8 fittings, more or less end to end. And when Aid found these flexis that you mentioned from the GTO, these run from the firewall onto the trailing arm, they fitted, everything felt fine, the 3/8 fasteners wound into them. We didn't really think anything of it. It didn't really cross our mind that these might not be 3/8. In fairness, them being for a Japanese car might suggest to you that they would be 10mm, but it just didn't occur to us. So anyway, our 3/8 fasteners did not seal in these M10 fittings. It was pouring out everywhere. And it was the same story with the final flexi that goes up to the caliper. So on each side of the car, we had 1, 2, 3 fittings that we had to replace. So that's taken up the last few hours. It's kind of a pig to get under there and get all those lines out and remade and everything. But that's all done. And no more hisses. We pressurize the system, no air falls out, everything seems A+. So we moved on from there. We thought, okay, cool. Well, if there's no air coming out, there's probably no brake fluid going to come out. So we forced a bunch of brake fluid in. We filled the pressure bleeder up with our nice bottle of DOT 5.1, ran it through. Everything seemed fine. And honestly, everything seemed to be going fantastically. So we hopped in the car and went to press the brake pedal down just to see what the pedal feel was like. And there was nothing. Absolutely no pedal feel at all. No resistance. We're like, that's a bit weird. Wonder what's the deal with that. This is the first time we've done a brake system completely from dry, so we're not sure if there's something weird, like maybe you've got to prime the master cylinder or something. We're kind of flying blind. So we thought, okay, you know, we'll give the cylinder a few pumps, we'll play a bit of the up, up, down, down game with the bleed valves and everything, and nothing we did had any effect. The only thing we noticed is that our rear brake fluid reservoir inside the wing here, whenever Aid was pressing the pedal and releasing it and everything, it would gulp down a bit of brake fluid, which seems perfectly normal. You press the piston in, fluid gets displaced into the brake system and it gets replenished from the reservoir, so that seemed fine. And when he lifted, it sort of topped the reservoir back up with a sort of, you know, surplus fluid in some sense. Unfortunately, when the fluid came back up into the reservoir, it carried with it either a bunch of bubbles or a bunch of rust, neither of which are things that are supposed to be in a brake system that is supposedly full of brake fluid. And we're like, okay, well, no bubbles were coming out when we were priming it, so it's not leaking, so we're not sure where these bubbles are coming in from. But the rust, obviously, that's not coming in from the atmosphere, that's not leaking, that's just something that was in the master cylinder. So as far as we can tell, at least one of our master cylinders, probably all of them, really, are knackered, which is a bit of a stinker because they're a real nightmare to get into. So replacing those is going to be a complete pig. But we have to do it. Like the amount of rust that came out of that master cylinder as we tried priming it. Again, not sure if that's actually a thing we have to do, but it's a thing we tried doing. Yeah, the amount of rust that came out was just basically a complete death sentence. So yeah, we've got one very brown reservoir full of brake fluid behind me, which is not an amazing sign. It feels kind of demoralizing because like we've just spent all this time, you know, sealing up our brake system, getting it full of fluid. And now because we're going to take the master cylinder out, we've got to completely drain it all out again, which I'll be honest, has kind of knocked the stuffing out of me. We're going to kick that can down the road again and get back to that another day. But for now, at least, we've got like a complete intact brake system. Nothing leaks anywhere it shouldn't do. The only thing we're worried about is those master cylinders. Our best bet is that the main piston seals, so you've got like a plunger that presses through the cylinder. Our guess is that those seals have like dry rotted or something. So when you press the piston through, all the brake fluid that should be getting pumped out of the master cylinder out into the hydraulic system and actually actuate the brakes is instead just like falling past this dead seal in behind it and just sort of churning around inside there, which really wouldn't be very good. But it does at least explain the kind of crunchiness that I felt the other day when I leaned on the pedal by accident. So yeah, bit of a rotter, but it is what it is, unfortunately. They have been in there for quite a few years, completely dry of fluid and everything else, so God knows what's happened inside those bores. Yeah, we'll nip those off in a future episode. So if you want to see us do that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like and share down below all the usual gubbins. If you want to support us, because these brake cylinders, they're not massively expensive, but they're not exactly cheap. If you want to help us out with them, you can jump on shop.pedalbox.show, buy any of our merch. You can also jump on patreon.com/pedalbox show, support us there from as little as $1 a month. Everything that goes on there does actually go into this car. It's super helpful. So many bits of this have now been paid for by the Patreon fund, and we really do appreciate every pound that comes in. Even if you feel like you're not a high roller on like the $10 tiers or anything, it's super appreciated. So yeah, it does feel like we're on the final stretches now, so hopefully not too many more parts to buy. Although in fairness, we didn't think we were going to be buying any master cylinders 24 hours ago, so we never really know. But yeah, if you want to see that happen, stick around. We'll see you next time.